My canvas is hanging before me. Finished, I think. His bleeding is slowed to mere trickles from where the platelets have not quite done their job just yet. He's prettier now, at least prettier than when I first saw him hours ago. I knew he'd be perfect for the newest piece, but is it art? His forceful tongue and rough hands were amusing. As we were horizontal on the bed, he laughed merrily as I tied him to the wall. He was even so unawares as to ask if I was gonna back that ass up. Unlikely, my sweet. His eyes widened, but he held out to the last second after seeing the dull stainless steel tray as I wheeled it in. I'm sure he recognized the implements thereon. A disposable scalpel, the best kind, and honestly, it's troublesome to find new ones. Ugly, but effective. There's an X-Acto knife, a straight razor, a serrated utility knife, the kind that police and firefighters carry. Quarter-meter stack of fluffy white gauze. Well, the blood is beauty, but if I can't see the canvas, I'm damned as an artist. I have some ice made from Evian, and of course a bottle of the water itself. And the centerpiece of tonight's exhibition, a cheap knockoff of the Philippine balisong knife. It's also called a butterfly knife. It's something I had taken from a mugger about 15 seconds after he realized he'd picked the wrong man as a target on that chill, dry night. I could smell he'd never tasted blood, and the edge was only keen enough to slice paper if you pressed hard enough. I'd never used it in my art before, but this was a new night. The old tools, they had simply lost their edge for me. So I sharpened it up, stripped off the burrs, and turned it into a brush. It's an awkward piece to use on a palette of such limited depth. The handle wobbles on the joints of the tang, and it's difficult to keep steady as I draw a line, flaying out the layers of beauty beneath the skin. Even the straight razor is easier to handle, making slim, deft, parallel strokes as I cut my way to perfection. This one, however, it's a bastard hybrid of the kitchen knives I'd started with and the Sheffield I use today. The marks it makes are slightly ragged and shallow, not the smooth split from the Sheffield, and not as rough as the Spyderco, but still altogether unique. Each cut is traced millimeters along the outside edge with the scalpel. The lines are choppy, start broad, then they taper like a tear to the stopping point. His tears cause him to wince slightly as they fall from his fine, strong chin, and then splash saltily or drift down onto his torso and into the aging clefts along his breast. Occasionally he'll strain against the thick cord holding him aloft or securing his feet to the floor. They always do. I stop, have a little sip of the Evian, and use some of it to clean off the blood that's beginning to dry, and wait until the resistance is over. One fuck line can ruin an entire piece, and I'd hate for him to have to die before I'm finished. Unfinished pieces do not make me happy. When I'm working for Mikhail, he doesn't really appreciate the subtlety or the beauty of what I do. He doesn't see the craft of my work. Yeah, there's a difference, I know, business versus pleasure. Mikhail is only interested in the results. But demons need positive encouragement too. He doesn't see the beauty of death just hovering tenuously over my precious canvas as I nick the threads of the manila, holding it at bay. He doesn't understand that this is a work of love, walking the tightrope between life and death. It's nothing that either of us can remember, but at least I can see the beauty in it. The scalpel I used to create a blanket of stars under the frame of his clavicle. Incisions are tiny in comparison to the tapering lines from the balisong, running vertically to the sky on his chest. Those who work in more traditional media would never understand or appreciate the skill it takes to draw on flesh a surrealistic cityscape. True canvas doesn't move or have muscles and bones or cry out when you move a brush over it. I appreciate the challenge. I can smell his sweat and urine as I carve the tiny half circles and use an ice pick to pop a tiny dot in the center. Each one only takes 10 seconds. I've been at this section for just under half an hour. Doing well, Precious? I ask. His response is nothing but a sob. By now he's resigned to his fate in the ropes. I take another sip of the Evian and give him a kiss on the cheek with my iced lips. It brings goose flesh out along his neck and torso. Very nice to see. If Mikhail would let me work this way, he'd have what he's looking for, all the more swift. They'd pony up the information he wanted after merely an hour instead of the agonizing 6 it normally takes. But I must do as he says, lest I incur his wrath. I'm an artist, though, not a performer. Working like that doesn't please me. There's never any mention of the quality of my work, the meticulous attention to detail, the immaculate execution of the work. Well, I know he appreciates it, but there's never any reward for doing an impeccable job with something so incredibly dour. He was once an artist too. I think that died in him, though. Personally, I can't see the point of going on as if you don't enjoy what you do. But is it art? For them, unlikely. They don't possess the same sensibilities, either holding on to the last shreds of humanity and balking at the perceived atrocities, or they're just dead to any concept of beauty at all, and totally inhuman. I enjoy skirting like this. Fuck what they think. My art is what matters to me.